while Launch, Explore, Apply has a general flow to it that is used to guide your evening's discussion. The Explore and Apply phases often overlap and ebb back and forth. So the goal of great discussion leadership is to monitor and influence the conversation so that the group has the opportunity to explore well before getting too deep into application. Remember, Explore has two parts to it: exploring the text and exploring how the truth applies to our lives. In exploring the text, we seek to understand the main points and also to understand the implications of the main points. The cardinal rule when it comes to the Bible and understanding any book or any speaker is to ground the truth in the context. What are the people issues going on that the text is wrestling with? What personal or social issue is the text addressing when it makes its point, when it states its truth? What comes before and what comes after? See, Jesus often tells a series of parables in one bigger sermon. For example, Matthew 22 through 25 appears to be one big sermon, and some believe it originates all the way back in chapter 21's interactions. John 13 through 17 is not one sermon, but the chapters together represent Jesus' last words the night he is arrested. So paying attention to the context and themes of Jesus that he chooses to address helps shed light on the smaller topics of his last words. Help your group explore the implications of the context and the themes of the text. Many a heresy and bad spiritual practice has begun by taking scriptures out of context and making them say what we want them to say, not what they actually say. While exploring the text can bring out a number of lessons, as a leader, you want the text exploration phase to eventually focus on one or two key themes and ideas so that the group doesn't just bounce all around. I've been in groups whose practice was to read a chapter and then talk about what was said. I've been there when the discussion was great, but other times each person just grabs one thing in 30 verses that they think is most intriguing, and you end up with 12 topics in 10 minutes, and the conversation never focuses. See, if the conversation never focuses on a key truth, then personal application will be limited, if not non-existent. If personal application is non-existent, no one grows. So help focus the exploration on one or two key ideas once initial brainstorming is done. The second phase of exploration is how the truth applies to our lives. See, we're brainstorming ways this truth impacts me in my world today. In leading this phase of the discussion, you want to fall back on the great coaching questions of life. One is, tell me more about that. Help people go beyond the surface implications. Another, how does this truth impact the way you think or feel or your relationships at home or at work? See, in personal application, the group can often get focused quickly on one option. But since we're all at different places, one application often doesn't fit all. So maybe the most important personal exploration question is this: what other ways could this truth impact your life and the lives of those around you? See, brainstorming is about getting lots of ideas on the table with the goal of each person finding the next most doable application step for where they're at right now in life. See, oftentimes as the Bible makes us deal with spiritual, relational, and moral issues, and in those moments we get caught in really big thinking. Like, in order to respond well to this, I have to become the Apostle Paul overnight. I have to do something really big. Yes, the truth may demand big change of us, but the truth is also that the gospel is full of God's loving patience and grace coming to us where we are at and helping us just take the next step. See, we often can't change everything and do all that we want and be all that we want to be by tomorrow. Therefore, one of the big types of personal exploration questions that we need to regularly ask is, what are some doable, simple, small steps you could take this week to just be a bit more like you want to be? Make the time frame short. What can you do today, tomorrow, this week? Ask people to get specific while continuing to brainstorm at this point. See, if someone is caught in the only way I can be a great husband is to fix all these big things right now, help them think of one or two or three small things they can do to change in the right direction this week. Get options on the table. Help your group not commit to oversimplified application too quickly. See, that leads to us living in platitudes. And too often it reinforces guilt and defeat because what we know we need to change and do is simply too big of a step for us right now. You might even need to reconnect your group to God's love in this moment if they're feeling the pressure for big change, and help them brainstorm smaller steps by affirming how patient God is. Just look at how God dealt with David with all of his flaws and the disciples with all of their flaws. Take a moment to consider this question, and if you are with others, talk about it. How do you find yourself all too often getting caught in a narrow perspective of what needs to change in a way that it feels too big, too difficult, and leads you to feeling all too often like you are failing? How have you discovered ways to break problems down and solutions down into smaller pieces in a way that helps you take a step in the right direction?